Good afternoon and welcome back. This is still the Polity reaching you live from our Abuja studios. Right now I've been joined in the studio by legal practitioner Confidence Bank Esquire. He joins me now to shed more light or break down the issue of the alleged interim government and what it means with the constitution involved. Welcome to the program. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Madi.
It's been a while.
We have been so choked up with chamber activities and all of that, so I've not been able to show up for some time now. But
that's good. We've been seeing multiple sides to the issues we talked about before. I've seen a lot of senior advocates commenting on it, sharing some of your own thoughts as well. But now let's talk about this issue. You are aware the elections have held and there's a president-elect. Now, even with that being said, some persons are saying or calling for what they term an interim government. Well, where is the place of this in the law, really?
Okay. First of all, to get this discourse straight, I think I need to establish what is meant by interim government. Yeah. According to the Black's Law Dictionary, it provides for provisional government instead of interim government, and it means a government in force for a short period of time or a temporary period of time, pending when a new government will be set up. Now, the Institute of Integrated Transition defines interim government as a government with an extraordinary mandate which subsists till a government with an ordinary mandate comes in. But however, the issue is, where do we place interim government in the 1999 Constitution? I must say that there is no provision in the Constitution that provides for interim government. There is none in the Constitution. None. In fact, Section 1, Sub 2 of the Constitution says the Federal Republic of Nigeria shall not be governed, nor shall any persons or group of persons take over the governance of the nation without going in line with the provisions of the Constitution. Therefore, elections are predicated on the fact that Section 1 Sub 2 says, look, you must come into government as stipulated by the Constitution, and the Constitution have gone further to make provisions for elections and all of that, up to the stage that of course we have the Electoral Act 2022, that is a legislation, an act of parliament passed to guide these processes. So there is no provision in the Constitution for that at all. There is none.
What about an annulment? Is that in any way possible? I asked because people act as though, or some aggrieved persons act as though maybe perhaps there's precedence or this has happened before. I mean, for you to make these calls now, it gives the impression that you've seen it happen before, thereabouts. So, has it ever happened where an election has been called and then suddenly it will be annulled in a democratic setting?
Yeah. And I think it happened in, I think, 1993 or thereabout, after the election of MKO Abiola, when he won, and then the military government of General Ibrahim Babangida annulled it. and then
but it wasn't democratic. It was, you know, you know, straight up military.
Yeah. I mean the NKO, the elections could have produced a civilian government, but due to the circumstances surrounding it, the military juntas annulled it, and then after some time, they appointed late Ernest Shonekan as the interim head of state in Nigeria. It will interest you to know that his government did not last up to 90 days. And then I think late General Sani Abacha took over. And before that takeover, the High Court of Lagos State, per Justice Dolapo Akinsanya, ruled that, look, there's no provision in our constitution that recognizes interim government. None. Even of recent here, illegal sage Olisa Agbakoba SAN, well respected, took the same position too, that look, there is no provision for interim government in the constitution. And so the question is, the persons calling for interim government, on what basis, on what grounds should it come in place? Who will draft the instrument? On which law, on which basis will an interim government settle in this country? To me, I think it's practically impossible. It's very impossible to have an interim government in Nigeria now because of the situation and all of that. I watched them, I think last 2 weeks, Sir Dati Ahmed, the Labour Party vice presidential candidate, you know, went on air saying that, look, if the president and the CJN, so as in the president-elect, then they have killed democracy in Nigeria. Amadi, do you agree with that?
No, I'm the one answering the question.
Yeah, of course.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, I take exceptions to that, because look, Nigeria is built on constitutional democracy. Democracy is a system of government which, according to Abraham Lincoln in his Gestapo Declaration on the 19th June, I think 1983, he said democracy means government for the people, by the people, and of the people. That is democracy. It does not mean it must be perfect. Elections everywhere in the world are not perfect. Even the acclaimed most democratic country, United States of America, elections are not perfect. Even in India, that has the largest democracy, they are not perfect. So I mean, if there are glitches, if there are violations in the elections, just as we admit that there are violations in this election, the proper thing to do is to approach the court. Which candidates have done. They have been approaching the court and all of that. So why think about interim government? Because now the danger is, if an interim government cannot be set up, what next? It might be a military takeover, a coup d'etat, and believe me, it is not funny. A coup is not funny at all. And whosoever are the persons planning this whole stuff, they should be careful. They should be careful, because it is tantamount to an overthrow of a government. And I ask myself again, does President Muhammadu Buhari want to leave that kind of legacy? I don't think so. I don't think so.
All right. I think one interesting question here is, taking into account the comments by the Labour Party vice presidential candidate, Datin Baba Ahmed, and others calling for it. Some persons have suggested that they are teetering on the verge of treason. Is that when you say that, you know, put an interim government, don't swear in the president-elect, does it really count as treason? Are you going against your country, so to speak?
Well, such statement is insightful. It's insightful, rather, like it can raise some dust, considering the state of our country now. Such statements are scary. When I saw that, I was like, wow, are you serious? And of course, it is tantamount to suggestions for overthrow of the government. Because if the present government are not in line, then it might mean that, oh, that is suggesting that. And seriously, it's criminal in nature. It's treasonable felony. That's if he's found, that if he's charged and found guilty of it. It's crazy. It's a crazy stuff, if you ask me.
All right. So the interesting thing is, following the elections, while some persons are calling for interim government, others are also going out there to protest and say that the candidates should say congratulations to the president-elect. But that being said, it's almost seen as though any kind of protest, you know, will be taken to mean incitement or calls for, you know, an overthrow or whatever. So the question now is, I know that general protests are constitutionally allowed, but in this situation, is it in any way wrong for people to come out and say, we don't believe you won this election and we are peacefully protesting it? Or is it an issue where, because the candidates have gone to court, going out to protest is now some sort of violent act?
Okay. Where a suit is before the court, parties should maintain status quo. In fact, status quo ante litem. That is, maintain how everything was before the suit was filed. It depends on the order of the court. The court might say maintain status quo ante bellum. That is before the elections and all of that. Now, political parties should not go on protest because the matter is before the court. They should respect the judiciary as an unbiased arbiter in the country, pursuant to Section 6 of the Constitution, which gives them the power to decide on dispute. However, as you have rightly said, protest is not illegal. Of course, it's constitutional, but not expressly provided for in the Constitution. It is inferred from Section 39 and 40, dealing with Section 39 and 40 of the Constitution, dealing with freedom to expression and, of course, assembly and association. So my advice would be that political parties or groups under political parties should not protest, even if it's allowed.
All right, I think that's fair enough. So just a round of to get your final thoughts on the issue, going forward, or perhaps after the conclusion of these proceedings, you know, what should be the expectations? And also another issue, I believe, if you mentioned his name, I don't know if I get it correctly, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Olisa Agbakoba. I believe he's the one that said it about yesterday or within the week, that he made reference to Kenya, who had their post-election matters resolved in about 2 weeks or so. Yeah. So I'd like to know what's the Nigerian legal system like? What makes it so, or why can't it be that same thing? I believe he made the call for it to be these talks of interim government. His own solution is that resolve the issues before May 29, and there won't be any need for calls for all of that. Is this something that can happen?
Well, I'll not be so certain about that, because in litigation there are procedures that guides the court, and the court can't do otherwise. Like, you can't necessarily fast forward everything. Every step in suits are being carried out according to rules of court and of course practice directions too. However, our Electoral Act 2022 has tried to address the issue of speed, especially in pre-election matters, by Section 285 of the Constitution and all of that. So, well, we are hoping that the suits should not take too long, but then I can't guarantee you of them being concluded before 29th May. I can't guarantee you of that.
All right, thank you so much.
Yes.
Perhaps another day we'll have another conversation. I'd really like to get to know, you know, what it is other nations are doing that makes theirs so speedy, compact and ours a bit more bulky. Thanks so much for coming. It's a pleasure. It was good to have you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.
All right, I've been speaking with Mr. Confidence Abang, a legal practitioner on the issue of interim government. We're going to break now. When we return, the conversation continues. We'll be delving further, this time particularly into the APC's response and plans for the government and in the future, with the swearing in coming up on May 29th. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly.